A bitter dispute unfolds within Korea's largest entertainment agency, Hybe, as it accuses the CEO of its sub-label ADOR of a breach of trust. The CEO in turn has accused Hybe of copying her creative concept. Welcome to Friday's edition of Issues and Insiders. I'm Min Sunhee. Today we touch upon the clash between Hybe and the CEO of one of its subsidiaries, ADOR, which manages girl group NewJeans. For this, I have Attorney Ahn Junseong here in the studio. Mr. Ahn, welcome.
Thank you.
I also have Tamar Herman live on the line again. Tamar, it's good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Right, Tamar, then let's start off, for the sake of some clarity, with a bit of information regarding the relationship among Hybe, ADOR, and its CEO, Min Hee-jin.
Min Hee-jin was known in the industry for many years as a lead creative at SM Entertainment, and Hybe, which used to be Big Hit, the home of BTS, as they started growing, they started hiring a lot of well-known creatives, especially some from SM Entertainment, and Min Hee-jin joined Hybe in 2019. In 2021, she launched her own company, ADOR, and then in 2022 debuted her first group, NewJeans, and obviously NewJeans is widely successful. So everything looked good until about a week ago when Hybe announced that they would be auditing Min Hee-jin and ADOR for a variety of allegations.
Right, and speaking about those allegations, Mr. Ahn, Hybe has accused ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin of a breach of trust by seeking to break away. What exactly does this mean from a legal perspective?
Well, let's begin with what happened here. Well, the main argument basically was saying that Hybe, that they want to fire her, but they couldn't for some reason. Right? I guess in this context, I believe that's the contractual conditions that she have the contractor guaranteed, unless there is some criminal act, something like that. That's why I think that Hybe, from legal perspective, they want to find a legal ground to fire her unilaterally. That's why I think the building of the case, and it's just like a breach of trust. And from the Min Hee-jin perspective, I think the Min Hee-jin want to keep her position at this moment, and she's counterclaim basically. Well, she hasn't filed any complaint yet, but she's making argument that there's a plagiarism, something such like that happens. And in terms of a breach of trust, it's very interesting criminal charge because it's very rare actually. Globally, there's very few countries that have it. What I believe is that that's the German and Japan and Korea, a very rare case. In the United States, there's criminal charge like called breach of trust, because that if you ask anyone else, then what's the breach of trust? There's people were wondering, oh, what is it, right? I'm sure the Tamar in New York would say, what's the breach of trust, right? It's very interesting because I was like, well, we have like a fiduciary duty, something in the law school we educated, but what's the breach of trust? Basically means that there is a criminal charge against the directors, managing directors of the company, basically blame for whatever mistake they made it, which perhaps that caused the damage to the company in financial, financial costs, something like that. But in the United States, there's a very famous case law, basically, rule that is business judgment rule, which will basically protect most directors from that kind of charges. And in that case, actually, in the United States, they're using the corporate fraud rather than the breach of trust. There's no breach of trust. They're using the corporate fraud. As you might understand that when you say fraud, it's very strong. It means that you have the very high level of criminality. So it's very hard to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Some CEO intentionally try to damage the company. It's very difficult, very hard level of the proof. The prosecution have it. So that's very difficult. In the United States, it's not going to happen, that case, because there's no charge there. And then even if it was proceeded with corporate fraud, it's very unlikely the prosecution win the case because that is very high level of the criminal intent. They have to prove it. Yeah, right. But in Korea, it's obviously, it is very, very common practice that the majority shareholder using against the minority shareholder. and using the criminal process to actually push them and corner them so that they can have a better position at their negotiation table. So I think that that's really against the global trend or global standard at this moment. I'm very, personally as a US lawyer, I'm very sad to hear that there's a breach of trust case, another case, because that's really going against global trend. Yeah.
Right, I see. And all that being said then, Mr. Ahn, what are the prospects of Min Hee-jin losing her post?
Well, actually, it's very interesting because this is case, even if there's the prosecution found the case, the ground for the case, that you need to, well, for generally speaking, this is attempt. It's not even she do anything yet, right? So basically, in terms of attempt, you have to the prosecution prove it that there's a guilty mind, as it's called, basically it's like manslaughter when they had a guilty mind. Actually, she admitted during the interview, said she wasn't unhappy, and sometimes that's why she had a bad thought about doing something bad against Hybe. That's she admitted. But however, also she said during the interview, 2 hours long, right? The interview, she said that, well, it was a joke, basically it's a joke. And how can we do it? Well, it's very interesting because I was very wondering, the shareholding, the structure, it puts the shareholder structure, she only have 18%, and 2% is owned by the employers and other employee at the company, and 80% owned by the Hybe. And not even, it's like 40%, they have 80% majority vote. Like a super majority vote. Whatever she want to do legally, she have to go to the Hybe, board of directors. And the Hybe wouldn't do it whatever they want to do it, right? That's the issue, right? So I guess that what they can do is that they can charge for perhaps attempt, and I think it's really based on the fact finding, is that for intent attempt, in general speaking, you need to prove the manslaughter, guilty mind, also the substantial step, whether her or her employees make any substantial step to commit that crime charge. So we have to see what will happen in the prosecution side.
Right, I see. Tamar, ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin, as shared during her very emotional press conference on a Thursday here in Seoul, claims that the root of her clash with Hybe has much to do with plagiarism. Could you tell us a bit about these allegations of plagiarism by Min Hee-jin against Hybe, and what has been the response to her claims thus far?
Yeah, Min has definitely alleged many, many things, especially during that press conference. A lot came out about her feelings about different girl groups at Hybe and in the industry in general. But one of the biggest claims, the one that was possibly or seemingly the start of this all, was her raising concerns in the company that the new girl group, Islet, which is under Belief Lab, another subsidiary, is very similar conceptually to NewJeans. And on paper and looking at it, it is very similar. 5-member girl group around the same ages, similar visual concepts oftentimes, and their sounds are different enough that they don't sound so similar, but they definitely look like they're coming out of the same brand. And there are types of groups that come out of K-pop companies. So many people kind of noticed it at first and were just like, oh, okay, this is like what Hybe is doing right now. But now obviously there is this major allegation that Min Hee-jin had no say in what Islet was doing and that it wasn't anything planned on her part to expand the Hybe girl group brand. And so she's quite upset about it. And other creatives in the industry are also pretty torn about it. And the creative director of Islet actually took to Instagram with quite an inflammatory post following Min Hee-jin's press conference. So it seems like she disagrees with the claims. So it definitely is a major impetus for this entire situation, but also there are many other concerns that Min Hee-jin raised during the press conference. So I want to clarify that conflict of plagiarism is a major cause, but it's not the only cause. There is so much more going on here.
Right, of course, indeed. But staying a bit with plagiarism from the legal perspective, Mr. Ahn, what are her chances, Min Hee-jin's chances, of winning a court case based on plagiarism, do you think?
Well, maybe probably not. What happened was that there's the legal things and factual things, right? Actually, I'm not a not K-pop specialist, but when I see that, actually, I checked the YouTube and try to compare, and well, very similar conceptually, right? But if you look at the other side, And many K-pop girl groups very similar. And very small. You can have different types, but several types. But I think that what will happen was that Min Hee-jin has like sense of entitlement, very strong sense of entitlement. That she said she believed that she created the unions, right, the conceptually, right, and then she, also she had a lot of work before here. She had a lot of record, working at the very good history about working at the K-pop specialist in conceptualized, and that's the issue that. In terms of for the plagiarism, sounds like not to me that she sounds like a branding issue, right? But if you want to see that, in legally speaking, if there's a consumer confusion there, you can technically say, yeah, that might be the one. But problem was that court also looked at what happened in the community, the standard, what happened in the real world, right? And plus, I don't think that's a good idea using the plagiarism argument, because that it's not going to be protect her from getting being removed from the office, because it's only. But I think she needs to get a big picture at what I want to do. And I think the big point is that if she really want to keep the post, or wherever she want to live, that's the difference, whether she want to keep the plagiarism, because that plagiarism is not only, I was surprised, I want to watch the YouTube clips, and then the group also very similar to the other group in the same Hybe branch, right? It's not only the NewJeans, and there's other group, they're very similar too. So that's the one more like maybe they should have talked inside the company rather than doing the criminal prosecution. That's the very bad sad. And then I don't think it's going to help neither side. Even Hybe, I don't think it's a good sign for them either.
Right. Tamar, girl group NewJeans, meanwhile, it's poised to stage a comeback next month. How do these latest developments look to affect the group's upcoming comeback, do you think?
At the moment, the members of NewJeans are still sharing promotional content and going to events, and they have a new song actually out on the 27th called Bubblegum, and then on May 24th, they'll be releasing How Sweet. Right now, the plan seems to be moving it forward as usual. Based on what Min Hee-jin said, she said that she had the press conference before the release to try to avoid any confusion. So it seems like her intent is still to keep the release schedule as planned. So it does seem that at the moment, NewJeans is going to be business as usual with their releases. It's unclear how far that'll be able to continue depending on what goes on with ADOR over the next few days and weeks.
Right. Many questions and few answers here. Ms. Ahn, what would be the legal consequences of a hypothetical scenario in which Min Hee-jin and the group NewJeans seek perhaps independence from the parent group Hybe?
Well, I think that from legal perspective, it's very unlikely unless basically, as you see the SNS message, right? Maybe if she leaves first, right? If she leaves and NewJeans leaves and they get together somewhere and set up a new company, theoretically, yes, but legally, not likely, because that they both have the contract, right? And they have to go through perhaps the litigation, which will take 1 or 2 years at least. So, and that's going to be a lot of time, and it doesn't even know they want to win it. Right? Because contract law is different, right? Contract is that it's basically based on meeting of mind. If both sides agree when the time of signing, and they cannot change their position because they don't like some provision or the condition there, right? So I think it's very simple thought that, well, I can leave, and then they can leave, and we can get to the new house, new company. Yes, theoretically possible, legally very difficult, and because the other side is Hybe. The super, really, really big global company, right? They're not going to sit there doing nothing, right? And they will do a lot of legal stuff, right? Which will be, very, like a PR campaign, right, against Min Hee-jin, what happened right now. So I don't think I think that from legal perspective, it's going to be unlikely going to happen. But theoretically, yes, possible. But the idea about the theory, maybe that really bother Hybe much. Because the idea that, they're challenging us, the small subsidiary challenging us, we're not gonna, sit there doing nothing. And we're sending some message to not only to her, maybe they have several, I think there are more than 10 subsidiaries, right? The music, the subsidiaries are over 10, right? So they're sending very clear message, whether you wanna listen to us and you wanna stay with us and you listen to us, you follow whatever we're saying. I think they're sending very strong message to the others as well.
Right. Yeah. Tamar, this standoff, it's also bringing to mind last year's legal battle between girl group 50/50 and its label Attract. Could you remind us, that is, a bit about that particular unfortunate case?
Yeah, right after 50/50 hit it big with Cupid, there was a lot of infighting internally among their producers and the members of the groups themselves. And ultimately what ended up happening was 3 of the 4 members were involved in a legal battle against their company for a variety of claims, including financial and physical abuses and lack of payment. One of the members ended up settling and deciding not to push forward with her suit. So she's still at the company, but essentially they were about to hit it so big. They were supposed to have a song on the Barbie movie soundtrack, and everything kind of crumbled apart just as they were really taking off in a way that K-pop doesn't really have. Cupid was one of the biggest songs on TikTok last year. It was all over social media. It was even in an ad for Tinder in the US. But unfortunately, everything kind of just came to a close because of infighting. So we're definitely seeing something very similar happening here with NewJeans' potentially flatlining due to infighting, and hopefully that won't happen.
Right, hopefully not. Mr. Ahn, what do you see unfolding over the next few days between Hybe and ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin?
I think 2 factors. First one, well, obviously, how, NewJeans, what kind of decision they make it, right? It depends on their decision, and I'm sure the Min Hee-jin's decision change. And then following her decision and whether she want to keep the current post or leave the company, right? And so we have to see what happened, but at this moment, it's hard to say what really happening. But as Tamar said that I hope it's not going to happen about same thing happen about the 50/50 case. Very sad, the very talented young girls group, and they're losing their position. That's very sad story. So I hope it's not going to happen that way. And the Hybe and then Min Hee-jin somehow get together and say to make up something better rather than the litigation and breaking up the very talented group.
Right, of course not. Tamar, some say this fresh infighting, it's shedding greater light on the repercussions of one powerhouse in the entertainment industry holding multiple labels. I believe Hybe has a total of 11, with 3 based in the US, 2 based in Japan, and 6 here in the country. What do you say?
I'm not quite sure that this is really about sub-labels, because typically sub-labels each have their own very distinct brand at many of the bigger entertainment companies around the world, in Korea and otherwise. It seems a little bit more like the ongoing trend we're seeing among K-pop companies nowadays, which is a lot of infighting, mostly based around kind of the future of K-pop groups and K-pop companies. Obviously, SM had their big fight last year. And so I think that this is kind of a trend more about K-pop rather than the multi-label system. But like Mr. Ahn said, this definitely is a message to the label system at Hybe that do not try to mess things up. Things obviously have blown greatly out of proportion with this way, but I think that saying that it's a sub-label issue is a little bit minimizing the impact of this. This is really based on at least what came out today. Obviously, things will change as more information comes out, but according to Min Hee-jin, it seems to be the fight between an artistic vision and the financial needs of the company. So it'll be quite interesting to see if this continues at Hybe and other sub-labels. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully things stay kind of calmer. But I do think that this is part of a greater trend about the shift of K-pop's goals financially in the years to come.
Right. And Ms. Ahn, this is an impromptu question, but let's imagine that you are legally representing Min Hee-jin. What would you advise as her next steps? Following her press conference yesterday, that would be Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, I watched twice. The 2-hour long.
It was a 2-hour conference.
4-hour total, right?
Very emotional.
I was very impressed, right? It's not a common, very unusual the way she presented. As I was like, wow. My wife was like, wow. And I think public opinion was a little bit changed, actually, when I watching the real-time chatting. Also, I was many people actually supporting. So I think if she want to keep a position and whatever she want to do it, she have to do very good on public opinion. She have to win the public. And second, if she want to do legal litigation, I say no, it's audible not to do, but if she really want to do that, maybe she file for the jury trial, Korean court. Because that under the Korean criminal law, that's maximum 10 years in prison. Actually, it's very breach of trust, is a very serious crime. So she have right to file for the jury trial which will the jury will decide who's right or wrong, rather than the judge decides, different from bench trial. So if she win the public, maybe she might win, have chance, higher chance, I say. But I say legal advice, maybe try to, mediate the damage and then try to protect the, NewJeans rather than try to what she want to get it. Rather than, I think you should focus on both sides try to protect the NewJeans, group, right? Rather than really getting whatever they wanted. That's the one. If she will win it, I fight for the jury trial and win the public. I think that's the strategy. But time-consuming, right? That's the problem.
I see. So seek to get more public vote of confidence then. And also to focus, like you said, Mr. Ahn, to focus a bit on the potential repercussions on members of NewJeans right now, instead of simply focusing on financial gains or whatever it may be that the two sides have against each other. All right, Mr. Ahn, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. And
pleasure.
Tamar, as always, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you so much.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of this week's editions of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.